Here comes the money. You're now listening to the Gambling with Gold podcast with Jason Gold. Presented by Champions Round.
Hello and welcome back to Gambling with Gold. My name is Jason Gold, and as always, I am joined by my buddy from the Action Network, Dan Titus. Dan, we finally made it a full year. We started off this podcast last year talking about the NFL draft, doing NFL draft props. We were in the midst of year 2 of COVID. The mask mandate is gone. I think we have finally crossed the line here, and we get the NFL draft once again. I'm super excited to bet on this. How you doing, bud?
Doing great, man. Glad to be back here. It's crazy. It's been a year since we started out doing this, but what better way to get the offseason started with some NBA draft props, man. It's a great time of the year. We got tons of good bets, so yeah, man, excited to have the conversation.
I can't wait. This is literally one of my favorite betting days of the entire year, and if you're unfamiliar with the NFL draft betting market, it is actually one of the ones that you can do the best on because you're just trading on information. There's not a whole lot of randomness in terms of, I mean, there is in terms of like misinformation and one team does this and then like it kind of like a domino effect, but you're trading off of like real deal, real life information. If you know who to follow and when to act, you can actually beat the books here. So something I'm super excited about. I got a 2-year big winning streak and I do not plan on losing in year 3. We're taking this thing to the goddamn moon. All right. Can't wait to talk more about some NFL draft props. Before we get to that, the NFL Draft at Champions Round is one of our biggest events of the year, and we debut a product every year called Big Board Showdown. That is so basically between 6 and 16 people can play in a league. You do a snake draft, and you have to have 1 quarterback, 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, a tight end, flex, offensive line, and 4 defensive spots. Draft your whole lineup, and you earn points based on where they're drafted in the real deal NFL draft. So if you have one of the first 5 picks, you earn 20 points, so on and so forth until we get to Mr. Irrelevant. Mr. Irrelevant is worth 50 points if you nail him. If your guy goes undrafted, you earn 0 points. Person with the most points at the end wins. Pretty simple, really fun. I encourage you to go join a league right now, and I am going to play a little preview video, and then we'll get to some NFL draft props. So that is our Big Board Showdown product. You can play that right now, and you can play through the start of the NFL Draft on April 28th. We are also going to have not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, 5 7-stakes contests available for the NFL Draft. So if you have an NFL draft itch, and if you love gambling, we can scratch it for you, baby. We are all about the NFL Draft here. We can't wait for it come next Thursday. All right, Dan. Let's get to the NFL draft props. I'm going to let you start off. What's your number 1 lock on the board right now?
Number 1 lock on the board. I'm going with Evan Neal to the Texans, number 3 overall, plus 350 on DraftKings. Ike Ekwonu, he's obviously the favorite right now, but I feel like the Texans, with their rebuilding format and their abysmal offensive line, I think Evan Neal is the dude. You know, he's a 3-year start at Alabama. Proven talent, 5-star pedigree as a high school recruit. He's playing the SEC, so you know he's playing up against top-tier talent. Per PFF, the Texans ranked 29th in offensive line grading last year. They're awful. They also have some issues there where Marcus Cannon just got released. Laramie Tunsil is going to be potentially a free agent in 2023, so they don't really have much security there. And I think Evan Neal is probably the most NFL-ready lineman that you have here. Certainly going to have some competition with Ekwonu at this draft slot here, but I'm taking it at plus 350. I think that value there is too good. And as a hedge, you could also probably take an Evan Neal under 5.5 at minus 115 because I don't see him getting past the Jets at 4 or ultimately the Giants at 5, who we know, and we'll talk about it, I'm sure, is very much more in this show about how bad the Giants need an offensive lineman. But being that I'm picking him at number 3. That also puts him in play as the first lineman drafted at plus 150 and first offensive player drafted at plus 150 as well. So a few different angles you can play on Evan Neal as well.
So I was just going to bring this up. I went to BetMGM to go search this number as you were talking. And first offensive lineman selected Evan Neal plus 150. Ekwonu is minus 190. Charles Cross plus 800. None of the other guys are going to come off the board before those three.
Yeah.
I like Neal there. So I think that this should be more even. I'm not going to make a play on the Texans and what they're going to do right now, but just looking at straight up offensive line market, I think that Neal and Ekwonu should be pretty close to even. I don't think that the Texans are necessarily going to be, if they want to draft O-line, that they definitely want Ekwonu over Neal. I think that Neal makes a lot of sense for them. I get the angle for Ekwonu too. I think it should be even. I don't think that the Jets, based on the fact that they have taken 2 offensive linemen in the last 2 drafts, and Mekhi Becton and Elijah Vera Tucker, I don't think that they're going to end up there. They're also not going to end up a cornerback. I think they end up going wide receiver or the best pass rusher on the board. So get past them.
Ooh, at 4.
Yeah, well, so here's the reason for the. I guess I
think they'll wait a little bit longer, but that's a good segue into it.
They could go for number 10. That makes a lot of sense. I feel like a lot of mock drafters are there right now, but Joe Douglas has tried and has struck out on every single wide receiver in the entire market. He's tried to trade for everyone except for Devontae Adams, it seems like.
Yeah.
And he's gotten nowhere. I'm sure that he would package 4 to go get Debo or AJ or DK if he could. That doesn't look like it's going to happen. I think that they'll probably use number 10 on a wide receiver. However, if you really want to get your guy and you have a guy so far ahead of everyone else, why not just draft him at 4? What's the difference? If he gets snaked on, if he really wants Garrett Wilson, and Garrett Wilson is not going to be around at 10 because Atlanta may take him at 8, do you just take him at 4? I don't know. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying there's a possibility that it does happen. The way that I actually think this draft shakes out is you have defensive lineman 1, defensive lineman 2, offensive lineman or defensive lineman 3, and probably defensive lineman 4. I think that the Jets, if it goes Hutchinson, Thibodeaux, Walker, 1, 2, 3 in some order, I think that the Jets will either trade out of 4. They will not take an offensive lineman or a cornerback. They take wide receiver, or they take Jermaine Johnson from Florida State. I think they're going to take the best pass rusher on the board. And I think that
I could see that. I could see that shaking out. All
right. Yeah.
What was I going to add to that? So you said that because the Jets addressed the offensive lineman position the last 2 drafts, that's why they won't do it again. They were 4th. They did allow the 4th most sacks last year. And it's not like they had their quarterback, their starting, their quarterback that they invested their future in Zach Wilson upright for most of the season. I mean, we're seeing Mike White. I mean, how many other quarterbacks do we really see?
True.
We saw Joe Flacco for a time. So I don't think that they're going to overlook it that much. Like, especially if you get that type of a pedigree, like I would bank my future on the lineman more than this wide receiver market this year. But I see the play for it, being that that's certainly a position of need that they weren't able to address in free agency.
Yeah, I'm just kind of reading the tea leaves here on that. They took the first 2, and they've hit on both those linemen too. They've done a really good job. Yeah. But they're just trying to, I think, spread the wealth amongst their first-round picks so that they're so not dominant in one place. They already have 2 stalwarts. Becton and Vera Tucker will be there for a long time, probably a decade plus. You can find 3 other linemen to put them together. You don't have to spend another first-round pick on getting one, especially if you don't think that Neal or Ekwonu is going to be, a lights-out guy. You also have Becton, who's already like a left tackle, so you can't really put Ekwonu there. People think he's a guard. You already have Vera Tucker. So if the Jets are going to keep it, you probably go with Neal, who can play right tackle.
Right tackle.
I don't know. So it'll be interesting to see. Let me start off with 2 bets here. I want to get one out of the way, which is like my lock of all locks right now, and then I want to jump to the top of the draft. So my best bet on the board right now is Desmond Ridder, top 32, to be a first-round pick. I think there will be I put that out on Twitter today. I bet it yesterday. I am very, very confident that there will be 3 quarterbacks in the first round of the NFL draft. I believe they will be Malik Willis, Kenny Pickett, and Desmond Ridder. I believe that Ridder may end up getting picked above one of Kenny Pickett or Malik Willis. I would not be surprised to see him be a top 20 pick. I I think there will only be 3 first-round picks quarterbacks. I think those are the 3. This is like an absolute stone cold lock to me. I don't foresee any way that he gets past Detroit at number 32. And in fact, if I had to bet right now, I would say that Detroit is going to take a defensive lineman at 2. Who is going to be? I mean, we'll talk about that in a second. But I think that the Lions will end up trading 32 and 34 to move up and take a quarterback in the draft. I think it will be Desmond Ridder. And I think it'll happen with maybe the Eagles in their second pick at number 19, something like that. Or number 18, sorry. And see the Eagles drop back and get more picks. That's kind of where I'm at with Desmond Ridder right now.
Yeah, I think the cap makes sense considering that most of the books have already made adjustments to the QB positions market. I'm seeing over 2.5 at minus 250 now. So you figure you slot in another quarterback there. I think Willis and Pickett are the obvious choices for the 2. And then you have Desmond Ridder. Reading up on Football Outsiders, Ritter's been one of the highest risers of the draft right now. I think his expected draft position was in the 30s range, and now it's moved up to 27. So I think there's definitely some steam going towards Ridder being a first-round pick. And I think you at the odds at minus 130?
Yeah, minus 125.
Yeah, minus 125. So, yeah, that's really solid for, I think, a back-end selection of this draft.
All right, so let's move to the top of the draft. Let's get the top 3 picks out of the way. You already touched on the Texans. I think that Evan Neal is probably a decent choice if he's going to go there. But I think a lot can happen based on what happens with the first 2 picks. So
yeah, the first 2 is going to really shake this whole thing up, right?
So the market is moving heavily against Aidan Hutchinson right now, being the number 1 pick to Jacksonville. He's currently minus 170. Travon Walker coming back at plus 140. A lot of this has to do with the fact that Trent Baalke has a past history in San Francisco of picking toolsy defensive linemen over production in college. That's what every media member out there is saying right now. People are forgetting that Aldon Smith, which is whom they're referring to, was an absolute monster statistically when he was in college. Travon Walker, despite the fact that he was at Georgia on that elite defense, he did not put up elite stats. This is a guy that was thought of to be a second-round pick and then a middle first-round pick until he tested at the combine. Him going number 1 overall would be wild. Now, there are some other things at play here. Trent Baalke does not potentially want to draft Jim Harbaugh's golden boy, Aidan Hutchinson from Michigan. I don't know that that's a thing, but I'm making it a thing. I think it's in play. I also think that because this is the exact same rumor has come out across the board about the Aldon Smith San Francisco thing, this is clearly being fed by someone in Jacksonville to the media. Why they're feeding it is interesting and an angle to think about from a gambling perspective. What do they want to do? What I think they want to do is create some doubt with Detroit. Oh, maybe we can go get Aidan Hutchinson. Okay, maybe we should trade up to 1 to go get Aidan Hutchinson. Right. Would we be okay giving up number 34 to ensure that Jacksonville's not going to take Hutchinson? Okay, maybe that comes out. I still think that Hutchinson to be the first player taken in this draft at minus 170 is a great bet. I already bet this is minus 300. I'm going to keep betting it all the way down. I do not think that Travon Walker will be the first player taken in this draft. I think there's a chance that Jacksonville takes him at number 2, but I don't think he's going to be number 1. And I think that Baalke, given the fact that he needs to keep his job with a new head coach in there, and the head coach has more power than he does, I think Trent Baalke is going to end up with a safe play if they keep the pick, and they will take Aidan Hutchinson. I don't see any way that this happens. So I would keep betting Aidan Hutchinson until I'm wrong, and I might be wrong, but these are my thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of surprised that Travon Walker right now. I'm actually seeing more steam going towards Kayvon Thibodeaux. In terms of going, top 3 and Travon. I think that there's actually I think there's a compelling case that that Walker could fall out of the top 4, and I'll talk about it. Actually, why don't I just give my bet?
Go for it.
So I'm gonna go Travon Walker over 3.5 at plus 198 at FanDuel. To me, the way the top 3 are shaking out is Hutchinson, number one. He's minus 200 at most books. You had him at minus 300, weeks ago. But, I still think he's going to end up being the odds-on favorite to go to Jacksonville. Thibodeaux, I have him going 2 to Detroit. And then 3, I already talked about Evan Neal going to the Texans. So by nature of it, I think Walker kind of falls into that 4 slot, which I think Salah would actually be all right, taking an edge rusher of his pedigree. But I also I think it's in the realm of possible that he could actually slide further than that. Potentially, we don't know what Carolina's going to do, but I think at 6, I think that's also a compelling case, considering that they need some edge rush help. Their secondary was very good last year, but their edge rush didn't really do much. So, I think Walker could be – someone's got to be the odd man out here, right? And I think it could be Walker just based off of more mock drafters. I think when you go out of the combine, you see this guy is a freakish athlete, put up superb numbers. He played for Georgia, the national champ. But if you go to the film, like, he doesn't show out as much as these top 2 edge rushers like Hutchinson and Thibodeaux. So I think he's going to slide a little bit, and maybe this is just smoke. Maybe Jacksonville is kind of playing some mind games that maybe they can trade down, get a little extra value, and get their guy. But yeah, I just find it hard to believe that Walker is going to sustain that top five, to be honest. So that's maybe a bet that I'm looking at also, maybe top 5, being that his over-under is at 3.5 right now.
Yeah, so I like the over 3.5 play. I could see I want to talk about the Texans in a second. I know we talked about it with Neal, but they're an interesting case. So I have Hutchinson going 1, and I'll make bets according to that. And I put this out maybe 4 or 5 days ago. Thibodeaux to go second to the Lions. Second pick was plus 450 at the time. It's already down to plus 200 in most places, so kind of got ahead of the steam there. And Thibodeaux, this is my biggest bet on the board right now in terms of how much money I've actually put down on it. But Thibodeaux to be a top 5 pick at plus 115. I think there's a chance that he goes 2, 3, 4, or 5. I don't see there's any way that he gets past the Giants. And like you said, there's steam in the market for him to go 1. I don't personally see that happening. Remember, I went to Oregon. Like, I'm all about Thibodeaux. But I think that is way too risky of a move given his personality and his, sometimes he takes plays off. If you're drafting a number 1 guy and it's between Hutchinson and Thibodeaux are about the same player, I want to take the reliable, I give everything guy all the time. So I would probably take Hutchinson too, even though I love a lot of the qualities that Thibodeaux has. But Thibodeaux top 5, I think, is an absolute stone cold lock at this point. Second pick, I mean, you could convince me, but at plus 450, it's good value. At plus 200, I don't know necessarily that I would do it. But I think that no one has done more work on Kayvon Thibodeaux than the Lions have. And that whole thing that came out last week, Dan Campbell doesn't like the guy's personality. He's not a fit. I don't know where that's come from, but I don't think it's coming from Detroit. Brad Holmes only went to 3 visits this year. Kayvon Thibodeaux was 1. They've had him in the building once last week with Aidan Hutchinson. And then they had him in meetings at the scouting combine, at the Oregon Pro Day. Like, they've done all the work you can possibly do on this guy. And Josina Anderson in December tweeted out that if it was the number 1 pick and the Lions had the pick right now in December, they wouldn't have to do any mock drafting. They were locked in on Kayvon Thibodeaux. That was their guy. So if Hutchinson's there, I do think that they go Hutchinson. But I think Thibodeau's their guy. And I think that he'll be the pick at number 2. Number 3, I could see it being Travon Walker. I could see it being Evan Neal. I know that Lovie Smith has talked a lot about cornerback play being intricate or a really strong part of what he needs to do in his defensive scheme. Maybe it's Derek Stingley. Maybe they go wild off the board. Maybe it's Sauce Gardner.
Not that high. Can't get there. Maybe Sauce, though. Maybe Sauce.
I think Derek Stingley is going ahead of Sauce. I feel like Derek.
Snap.
I bet a lot of Derek Stingley stuff. I have under 12.5, under 10.5 to be a top 10 pick, which is, let's see.
That's definitely top 10 plus money.
Top 10 pick Stingley. No, minus 125, I bet it.
Wow.
And Derek Stingley to be the 3rd pick. I have not bet yet, but I think there's a chance that this ends up happening. 3rd pick for Derek Stingley, plus 700. So it's in play. Sauce Gardner's plus 500. Stingley's plus 700. I think that there's a chance that Houston wants to bet on the guy who had PFF 2019, the highest graded quarterback in the history of their database as a true freshman on a national championship team, a guy who was shutting down Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson in practice. Like, there's film of that happening. Yeah, he's been injured the last 2 years. Yeah, LSU also stunk. Who cares? This guy was just waiting to get to the draft. Why risk playing, all out and injuring yourself even further? Screw it. I think
You
people are
think
going to go back.
Lovey? I just don't see Lovey just pulling that. Wow.
Look,
It makes sense, but
this guy has no red flags personality-wise. He's an absolute gamer. I think that Lovey's just going to be like, go flip on that 2019 tape. Or because Lovey Smith's not saying anything. He wants a cornerback, great. You know who's making decisions? Nick Caserio. You know what Nick Caserio likes? A guy maybe like Darrelle Revis. Maybe a guy like J.C. Jackson. He wants a stud cornerback. And I think there's a chance that this happens. I think there's a chance that Derek Stingley goes third overall. But I definitely think he's going to get top 10. I don't think he's going to end up making it past. I think I don't think the Jets are going to take a cornerback at 4, maybe at 10. The Giants definitely could use one at 5 or 7. I think more likely at 7 than 5. Giants need to use an offensive lineman at 5. Carolina, not going to take him. Atlanta, they just got A.J. Terrell. They need an offensive player. Not going to take him. Seattle, quarterback all day. I think that if one of Sauce or Stingley is on the board there, Sauce makes a lot of sense because he's almost exactly like Richard Sherman. Like long, lanky, tall, totally fit in. But Derek Stingley there, the absolute would be great. So I don't think there's any chance he makes it past 10 with the Jets. So I love the Stingley top. And I could also see the Vikings trading up to 9 or 10 to go get him because I know that they love him a lot.
Was I going to go with that?
I don't know. I went on a lot of different directions here. Let's go back. What's your next best bet here?
Oh man, my next bet, I'm going to go with Drake London under 10.5 plus money, plus 100 at FanDuel. This opened up at 12.5 and this number's dropped to 10.5. And if you look across books, this FanDuel is the only one offering plus money at this one. So I think this is just a value play. You got the Falcons drafting at 8, the Jets at 10. We already talked about the Jets potentially. Well, you have the Jets potentially making that leap at 4 potentially for a wide receiver. I don't see it happening, but worst case, I think it's going to be at the 10 spot. And those two teams are the really ones that stick out to me. London size 6'4", 220 could be an excellent addition to their wide receiver core for the Jets that already have Corey Davis, Braxton Berrios and their draft pick last year and Elijah Moore. They need that deep threat guy that can kind of just bring down the ball. And I think he fits in perfectly, as well as the Falcons. If they don't go for Garrett Wilson, I think Drake London is certainly a good option here. 88 receptions, over 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns last year. So I love this play here at under 10.5. No, I think he gets into the top 10.
The wide receiver market right now is very interesting. So I'll go over a couple of things that I have bet here and talk about BetMGM right now. Jameson Williams is plus 160 to be the first wide receiver off the board. That number has moved down an astounding amount. I bet that number 2 weeks ago at plus 700.
How you?
I also at the same time bet Chris Olave to be the first wide receiver taken plus 1,800. It's plus 1,600 now. I don't really think there's a chance that it happens, but maybe. My whole thought on this is if you look at all of the mock drafters out there and anyone that has talked to NFL talent evaluators, the difference between where people have guys 1 through 5 and in which order is really off. There's absolutely no consensus. So yes, the market's telling us that Garrett Wilson's probably the favorite to go first, and then Drake London, and then Williams, and then Treylon Burks and Olave are flip-flop.
Right. Yeah.
But there's been, if you read all the reports from Albert Breer, Peter King, they have guys that have Olave ranked 1, Jameson Williams ranked 1, Garrett Wilson ranked 5. They're all over the place here.
A lot of parity, yeah.
I don't think that there's any value in betting Garrett Wilson to be the first guy. I think that Chris Olave right now at BetMGM plus 1,600. I think there's a chance that happens. I think there's a chance that Jameson Williams end up being the first wide receiver taken.
Yeah, so the good thing about Jameson when you got him was that the report just came out that he's having an accelerated recovery schedule. So when you got it, there wasn't really many reports of how his rehabilitation was going. So that's certainly maybe that's the agents, pushing it to get his draft stock up. But he's also, if he hadn't gotten injured, he's the most prolific wide receiver in the class. It's not even close.
I think that Drake London, your bet at 10 to the Jets is a perfect fit. They already have Elijah Moore. They have the small guy. They could use a big body receiver. They could use their Mike Evans type to go get the ball deep to play with Zach Wilson, who can absolutely throw the crap out of the ball. Right. I know that London's not the fastest guy, but That dude wins every 50-50 ball in the history of the Pac-12. Like, he won every single one, albeit it's the Pac-12, not the best quarterbacks in the world. I know. But, he's a really, really good player. I could see him going 10. The problem that I have with betting 10.5, though, is how many positions in the first round or in the top 10 do you see potentially going wide receiver? So
literally only two teams.
So the 4 to the Jets, 10 to the Jets, and 8 to Atlanta, right? Those are the teams. So you figure the 2 wide receivers are probably going to end up making it to the top 10. Probably, most likely at 8 and 10. So
it's close. This is going to be a little sweat. It's going to be
but like, it's just like a matter of who do you think the first 2 wide receivers off the board are going to be? If you think it's going to be someone and London, it's a great bet. I'm very confident that 2 wide receivers are going to go off the board by 10 and 3 by 11. Because let me make this very clear. The Washington Commanders are taking a wide receiver. And that might be the worst kept secret in the draft.
Jameson Williams. That's where I'm slotting him at, maybe 11.
Chris Olave.
Ooh.
They're gonna take Chris Olave. Chris Olave or Garrett Wilson if he's there. They're gonna take an Ohio State wide receiver there. I Spidey sense is telling me that it's an Ohio State wide receiver at 11. All right, why don't we go through some other stuff that I have on the board? Kyle Hamilton, I bet over 6.5 long time ago. It's unavailable, so maybe not even talk about it.
Well, he's now over 10.5 at plus money at DK, which I'm feeling.
He's gonna go like 13. Why don't we do this?
He's sliding.
Before I get to the rest of this, what's your top 10 right now?
Oh, man, do I have a top 10 that I can just reel off like that? Let me see. Let me go to the board real quick. I got Hutchinson 1. I got Thibodeaux 2, Neal 3. I have who did I have going to the Jets? I got probably Jermaine Johnson. 5 I have so this is one of my bets, actually. I'll just run this off real quick. On FanDuel, they're letting you do Jets Giants specials. I got Ike Ekwonu going at 5 to the Giants, and then Sauce Gardner going at 7 for plus 700.
Okay.
And I love that, because Ekwonu, the Giants need a lineman. He's a unanimous All-American. Mauler certainly can actually help Saquon Barkley actually get some rushing yards and maybe keep Daniel Jones from being there, being on his back or just running ridiculous amounts for a quarterback. And the Giants, though, when they picked up their new defensive coordinator, Wink Martindale, this dude loves these cornerbacks and think he's a great fit for their system. They've already done a lot of homework on Sauce Gardner, and actually, being that they've done so much homework on Garner, just reading through the tea leaves here, at better value, I think it's still in the range of outcomes that you flip this, do Sauce Gardner at 5 and then Ekwonu at 7. That's at plus 1,300. So either way, I think that's extremely good value for 2 guys that I think address positional needs for the starving, needing Giants.
All right, so you got through
that's 7.
5. So,
7,
but 6.
6 Panthers. I'll go. See, this is the thing. Like, I was going to ask you, is it Pickett? Is it Willis?
The quarterback thing. This is like my next question on the board right now. We should talk about the quarterback separately. So just pass 6 for a second. We'll work back. Okay. Yeah.
And then so 7 we got, I already told you, Garner or Ekwonu, one of the two. 8, I'm going to go with Garrett Wilson, or I'm going to go Drake London, because they have Russell Gage there. I think they still need a big body.
No,
they do have Kyle Pitts.
Gage went to
he's on the Bucks. He's on the Bucks. So they have no one.
Yeah, they have no one. They have Olamide Zaccheaus.
All right, so I'm gonna go Garrett Wilson for that matter then. And then 9. Walker. I mean, he falls at this point. Like, I've already skipped over him, but I think he probably goes to the Panthers if the Panthers don't go to a quarterback. So I'll take him off there. The last 9. Charles Cross, maybe. I don't have a good feeling about 9, but then 10, that would be Drake London.
Okay.
That took a while.
So, no, you're good. My top 10 right now, Hutchinson, Thibodeaux, Ekwonu at 3, which I don't feel great about, but 3 and 5 I flipped. 4, Jets. I feel like they're going to end up with whatever the defensive lineman holdover there is, so I'll go Travon Walker. Giants take Evan Neal. I'm very confident that they're going to take the O lineman at 5. If you can get a bet out there that says Giants take O lineman at 5, whatever the price is, I think that they're willing to wait on Sauce or Stingley at 7 and just take the best offensive lineman. 6, we'll get to the quarterbacks in a second. I have Charles Cross, the O lineman from Miss State. We'll talk about Carolina in a second. 7, Giants. I have Derek Stingley ahead of Sauce Gardner. I already laid it out. I think that Stingley is going to end up being really, really tight with Sauce. 8, I have Garrett Wilson. 9, I have Sauce Gardner to the Seahawks. Again, the Richard Sherman thing, I think that makes a lot of sense for them. And then the 10, I have Drake London. Again, I think that makes sense. 11, I have Chris Olave. Jameson Williams, I have 15 to the Eagles, although given the steam in the market, I may switch out. What I'm thinking about doing right now would be 8, Atlanta takes Jameson Williams. 10, the Jets stick with Drake London. 11 goes Garrett Wilson to Washington. And Chris Olave ends up at either 15 to the Eagles or 17 to the Chargers. I love the Chargers pick for Chris Olave. If he's there, his over-under in the market right now is 17.5. I don't see there's any way that the chance that the Chargers let Chris Olave go and don't give Herbert the deep threat if he's available there. I'm not saying that the Chargers are going to stretch for one. I think that they would love to come away with a Jordan Davis at 17 or Devontae Wyatt, someone to just plug in the middle and just eat up space for the running game that was terrible, or they were terrible against the run last year. But if Olave is there at 17, that's too good with Herbert. I think that makes a lot of sense. So let's go back to the quarterbacks here for a second. So I feel very confident that Ritter's going to go in the first round. I think that's a great bet. What to do with Willis and Pickett when you're mock drafting, I haven't a freaking clue. From your, I don't know if you agree with me or not. I assume you do. These quarterbacks are all kind of trash. They're all guys that like you're just biding time until you find your guy, right?
Yeah, I don't think Malik Willis is going to be like, the cornerstone piece quarterback. Kenny Pickett definitely isn't. But I think Pickett's the most QB ready. He's the most NFL ready. So, but I don't know. The Panthers already have a holdover in Sam Darnold. So, like, why would you invest in 2 holdovers? You know what I'm saying? So that doesn't make sense to me. I feel like they gotta that's the only thing that's kind of holding me up with the over 2.5 is like, where's Kenny Pickett? Is he in that much high demand? Like Matt Rule apparently heavily recruited him when he was at Temple. Is that enough to make you pull the trigger? Maybe, but I don't think Rule, given what they did last year and some of the comments that he made in the media, he just sounds like an idiot. I don't know that they want to trust in him to like make these decisions for this franchise. Like he could be fired next season. So like, I don't think he's going to have enough power to swing the room to make that kind of a selection. And there's still a trade market available for Jimmy Garoppolo, Baker Mayfield. Again, more holdovers, but at least Garoppolo has some kind of a winning formula to his resume. So I think that I'm going to fade the quarterback at 6 here. So then the question becomes, when it gets later in the draft, the Steelers, Kyler's holding out right now. I mean, I think they're eventually going to pay him, but there's other teams that could address their need at quarterback. Certainly the Seahawks could. Yeah, so there's definitely some QB needing teams. I just don't know if it's going to be the Panthers at 6.
Yeah, okay. So here's my thing on the Panthers. And you said a lot of it. David Tepper and his balls of steel is, which is, I don't know if anyone's ever seen that story about David Tepper. It's hilarious. Just search on Google, David Tepper, desk ornament. Fantastic. It's my type of guy. Anyways, he has gone all over the place and tried to find a quarterback. They are clearly invested in making a big move at quarterback. Yeah. They tried for Deshaun Watson. Why they didn't guarantee all of his money, I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. The guy's the richest owner in the NFL. But maybe they felt uncomfortable with all the stuff that's going on with Deshaun Watson. Fine, I get it. It also sucks for them that they didn't have a pick between the second, third, and fourth round this year, which is a reason why not trade back? This is a perfect trade back spot. Pick up some extra picks. Scott Fittner, their GM, he's not as much on a hot seat as Matt Rule is. If Matt Rule does not win this year, he's screwed. He's out. He's done. You're not winning with Sam Darnold. You're just going to pay him the $18 million to sit his ass on the bench and complain on podcasts that I proved that I'm a good quarterback. Yeah, okay, buddy. No, you haven't. Not even at SC, really. You kind of stunk, except for the one game. You had one good year. Sorry. So I have to gather myself.
Love the Sam Darnold hate.
Yeah. Okay. So Baker Mayfield, it makes a lot of sense for them. I think he's good enough and they have enough weapons where, and especially in that division, like they could go and win 7, 8, 9 games with Baker Mayfield next year. That may be enough to save Matt Rule's job. You know what's not going to save his job? Drafting Kenny Pickett, who's not going to be good, who's 24 years old, who has little baby T-Rex hands.
Baby hands.
and he still needs like 2 years of coaching up to probably be a top 20 quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
You're not going to have that much time. You need to win now. I think that Jimmy G actually makes the most sense for them. He creates a great floor. If he gets injured, and he will, Sam Darnold's like decent enough to, throwing Sam Darnold in for 3 games a year, fine. You can live with that.
Sure.
I think that Jimmy G makes a ton of sense for them. The only problem is, again, they don't have the second, third, or fourth round pick to do it. So what I think that they should do, trade down from 6, pick up a third or fourth rounder, flip that to San Francisco, bring Jimmy in, and all of a sudden you're a 500 team. Maybe you get a little hot. That
in a very weak division. In a very weak division. I mean, Tampa Bay minus Tampa Bay, but still.
But the NFC stinks. Every good player's in the AFC West. Like if with Jimmy G and you're playing Atlanta and New Orleans, who are going to be better or worse, Tampa Bay is going to be the same. They'll win the division.
Yeah.
Could Carolina with Jimmy G with an improving young defense, if Christian McCaffrey's healthy and you take an offensive lineman at 13, could you win 10 games and stick into the playoffs?
Wild card?
Absolutely.
Sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's a much better path for Matt Rule than drafting Kenny Pickett. Do you think that he really want to risk his entire job where if he gets fired from the Panthers, he's got to go coach Southwestern JUCO Texas State shit or whatever the hell school he's going back to?
Yeah.
It's not like he's not going back to college. He's not ending up at, a top 5 job. He's not going to go coach Texas next year. So, yeah, I would be very surprised if Carolina takes a quarterback at 6. If they trade down to 14, 16 and take Malik Willis or Kenny Pickett, okay, fine. At 6, nah. So I feel like someone's going to trade up for that and give him a 3rd round pick, and they flip the 3rd rounder to Jimmy.
I totally agree, man. I love the trade out of the position angle. Wish we could bet on that because I think that it just makes too much sense. Like the value and for someone to creep up for a positional need like that, 6s are very attainable drafts position that can get you some middle tier value and then potentially flip it for a quarterback that you actually want to get that you struck out with on the free agent market.
All right. So then Desmond Ridder, I think the Lions are going to come up and get him. They probably don't have to have package 32 and 34 to come up that high to go get him. Yeah. They could just move up from 32 and like a 5th to move up to 24 or something like that to go get Ridder. I think that Willis is going to be gone somewhere between 9 to Seattle, and I don't think he gets past 20 to Pittsburgh. I could see Pittsburgh trading up for him. Kind of makes a lot of sense for Pittsburgh to go ahead and do that. Is that kind of what you're thinking about where Willis will end up landing?
Yeah, I had him worst case in Pittsburgh. I think that would be the logical fit. Being where their quarterback situation is right now, could definitely take a couple years, see how he pans out. It seems like, I don't know, they always seem to draft quarterbacks and, they may not, pan out, but they're at least willing to give him a shot. So what he's seen on tape, Liberty, obviously not the best competition, but I think that there's still some upside from what he saw on his pro day that he could actually be he could be serviceable. All right. It could be a better option than now. Like you've been looking at Mason Rudolph for the last, 3 or 4 years, can't get any worse than that. So, yeah, I think that they'll take the leap if anyone else doesn't, well before 20. If they have to move up to get him, they will.
You usually play quarterback worse after you've gotten smacked in the head by Myles Garrett's helmet. So hopefully that doesn't happen to Malik Willis. All right. Why don't we? All right. So we're done with NFL draft props for now. We're going to do at least one, maybe two before next Thursday. Talk about it more, talk about the movement, talk about what bets we're making. Also, all of my bets are available. If you go to my Twitter page, I have a link to a Google Doc that has all of my bets. I'm tracking all of them. So if I suck, you can yell at me on Twitter. That's fine. They're all there. I'm not changing the juice on any of them. I'm not going to mark them down as wins when they're losses. I'm not one of those stupid touts on Twitter. They're all right there. This says what date they were made, what site. Go ahead and check it out. But let's do this. I have 5 minutes. NBA stuff, playoffs. What's going on? What bets are we making? What are we liking? What's happening in the market? I need to know.
Man, first off, as a Sixers fan, I feel pretty damn good by the play of Tobias Harris. Obviously, Scotty Barnes and Gary Trent Jr. was on the mend last week or last game. He was sick, but I think the Sixers look pretty well. And I think they have a nice path here. If they can get past the Toronto Raptors, then they'll face more than likely the Miami Heat. I think the Heat are going to beat the Hawks. That game is tonight. I think, we could see Trae Young bounce back a little bit, but I just think that the Miami Heat team is just full of veterans. And unfortunately, without having Clint Capella there, that's going to matter in the long run. So I think the Heat have been quietly just doing their thing as a 1 seed. They're probably the most unlikable 1 seed that you could have, but I think that they're at least going to get out of the first round here. And then we'll see what that second round matchup looks like. Obviously the game of the night, after what we saw in Boston and Brooklyn, what is game 2 going to look like here? Kyrie in TD Garden, man, flipping people off.
It was the best. I loved it.
It's amazing. I mean, I don't understand why people are getting all up in arms about him giving people the finger. Like it's the playoffs. Like I was watching Winning Time last night.
Double birds, baby.
Yeah, like Boston. This is what Boston does, man. Like they're the most, there's the craziest fans that you possibly have. So to expect them to be talking shit and him to give it back, like he gave you a 40 piece. Probably the cleanest 40 piece I've seen in a playoff in a while, man. Like Kyrie's just so good. And now there's reports that Ben Simmons is now taking 4-on-4 contact, so he could be back potentially by game 3 or game 4. So that could change the dynamic of the series a little bit, at least defensively, because that's one thing that the Brooklyn Nets don't do is play defense. So I'm still on the Boston Celtics in this game. I think that they'll still win this one. But in terms of player props, one that I love, another great matchup, the Minnesota Timberwolves stunned the Memphis Grizzlies in game 1. Some people on the Action Network side of it predicted this. It's just a bad matchup for the Memphis Grizzlies, but I think it's a bounce back spot for the Grizzlies. One thing that was apparent is that Steven Adams is going to be rendered useless in this game. He was getting cooked in pick and roll and drop coverage against Cat because Cat is one of those bigs that stays away, shoots the 3, plays away from the basket. Steven Adams isn't really helpful in that scheme. So I think we're going to see a lot more Brandon Clark. So if you see any of his player props, I think I saw points and rebounds for over 15.5. I would take that. But the lock of the night is Steven Adams under 20.5 points, rebounds, and assists. I still think he's going to be a factor in this game or potentially in this series because he's too slow-footed. He can't keep up with the bigs, and he gets obliterated in pick and roll. So that's also going to be a good game. I haven't put anything on the spread or the total on that one, but I'm expecting Memphis to bounce back here. 7 points seems like a lot to me. So I might just hedge that by playing the first quarter, which I think should be at -2.5. Or potentially the Memphis team total over 31. I think that's also a pretty good bet. Man. So after that, a lot of game 2s, man. It's going to be a great night of basketball. I love NBA basketball. It's basketball literally every night of hard competitive basketball that everyone complains about. NBA sucks because they don't play because it's 82 games. Well, now you're in the thick of it. This is where playoff basketball matters. It's great. It's awesome. I love it. Go Sixers. Let's get it.
All right, so 6 games the next 2 days. Just quick hitters. First thought, you don't have to explain why. Just what are your picks? Atlanta +7.5 at Miami tonight.
God, I don't want to lay points with Atlanta. Pass.
Okay, I didn't know that was an option, but I
Can't
liked
do
it. Minnesota +6.5.
Not betting is always an option.
I've never heard that
I'm going to take
before.
Memphis 6.5.
Okay. Not betting is not an option. Don't listen to Dan. It's a terrible option. Pelicans +9 at the Suns.
I'm actually slightly compelled by the Pelicans, but I can't do it. Suns -9.5.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards the Suns too. I actually bet them first game -10.5. They won by 11. I thought that's probably about the closest the Pelicans are going to get in Phoenix. Yeah. I think this is actually going to be a rout. Nets.
Definitely look at some unders there. Brandon Ingram under 24.5 points. That dude struggles against the Phoenix Suns.
Ooh, okay. Now I have 2 prop bets for tonight. Love it. Nets +3.5 at Boston.
Give me Boston 3.5.
Okay. Sixers at the Raptors. No Matisse Thybulle. Still favored by 1.5.
Sixers 1.5.
Okay. The play that I like in that game, Toronto first half money line.
Ooh. I don't mind it. I don't. I mean, if they can start out, they could definitely do it.
Teams at home down 0-2 in a competitive matchup. Feel like that first half. Yeah,
yes, sir.
Last one, Bulls +9.5 against the Bucks. Surprisingly feisty in game 1. Alex Caruso. I hate the Lakers.
Yeah, I'm gonna roll with the Bulls here. I think they might have figured out something, at least to keep it somewhat competitive. Being that I was heavy favorite, I'm gonna go with the dog there.
All right, that does it. We went through all of our NFL draft props, some NBA stuff. We had good times. We'll be back next week with more NFL draft props. I can promise you. Until then, go follow Dan. Go to Action Network and go track all of his bets. Whether he submits them verified or unverified, they always pop through. I'm ready to go. Also, go join a Big Board Showdown League. Follow our Instagram and Twitter for more information on live drafts that we're doing with myself, Dan Turner. I'm making Dan Titus do one with me on Thursday, so you can join that with me. Steffi Smalls is also hosting one every day. We're also going to do a live first-round mock draft, me, Dan Turner, Steph Smalls, and Jeff Hasley tomorrow. So look out for that. And yeah, that does it. We'll be back next week. Until then, good luck with all your bets. Make some money. Save some money for the NFL draft. And we'll talk to you soon. See you.